Hello and welcome to Always Elite. Today we're reviewing AEW Dark, which is the matches before and after the previous week's event, and AEW Dynamite itself. We're going to start with AEW Dark. First match was the Librarian Peter Avalon versus Kip Sabian and Sonny Kiss. Sabian and Kiss keep Avalon out of the match for most of it. There's lots of, after Avalon finally gets back into the ring, they do a lot of three-way moves, a lot of basically Tower of Doom kind of spots. Although Kip Sabian wins with Deathly Hollows and a pin on Avalon. Next up we had Angelico, Jack Evans, Evil Uno, and Stu Grayson versus SEMA and SCU. Good tag team wrestling back and forth. SCU and SEMA take most of this match. Late in the match there's lots of big moves, but it ends with a low blow by Angelico and Evans to Scorpio Sky, and they pin him for the win, while the referee was distracted. Next was an unsanctioned lights out match, which happened at the after Dynamite last week. It was the dark match for everybody that was there. It was an unsanctioned lights out match between Joey Janela and Kenny Omega. And of course, you know, Joey being Joey, he throws in the toys almost immediately, and he wants to use them the whole time. I guess he likes it that way. You know, he's just hardcore like that. Kenny gives Joey a dragon suplex on the apron, which looked like it really hurt Joey. It was ugly. It was really, really ugly late. To finish the match off, Joey sets up a table and a ladder, places Omega on the table, climbs the ladder, attempts to do a frog splash, but Omega moves out of the way. In the end, after all of that, Omega gives Joey the one-winged angel on some chairs, which looked like it really, really hurt. I think Joey was injured after that. And he pins Joey for the win. And now on to Dynamite, Episode 3 from October 16th, 2019. Starts almost immediately after the opening credits, with a first round match in the tag team tournament between SCU and Best Friends. But before SCU can come down fully down the ramp, Lucha Bros comes out and beats up all three of them. In the process, Christopher Daniels takes a package pile driver, and later I find out that it was a stinger, so he could not compete. So Scorpio took his place instead, which he said he didn't want to do last week. He wanted to go with the experienced team, but I don't think he had a choice. Most of the match was Best Friends. They took almost all of the match. In the end, a reversal, and SCU pins the Best Friends for the win to move on in the tag team tournament next week. And they transition into the next match almost immediately. Even though they went to a commercial break, they had a picture-in-picture, but they showed them coming down the ramp. They went right into it. It was Santana and Ortiz. I guess their team is called Proud and Powerful now, or something like that, versus John Silva and Alex Reynolds. I've never seen these guys wrestle, and if I have, I wouldn't recognize them. Ortiz and Santana, if you remember correctly, they joined Chris Jericho in the Inner Circle last week. Santana and Ortiz make very quick work. The match did not last very long. They ended it with a street sweeper and a pin. A street sweeper is a blockbuster with a power bomb. It's a neat tag team move. Then Jericho gets on the Tron and says that Santana and Ortiz want the Young Bucks at Full Gear on November 9th, which is their next pay-per-view. That should be an intriguing match. Next was a montage about Cody versus Jericho. His friends and family talk about Cody and his journey to this title. It's very, very inspiring. Next up, we had Dr. Britt Baker versus Rijo for the AEW Women's Championship. Britt has power, but Rijo has speed and agility. And she shows this time and time again throughout the match. Lots of near falls from both women. It ends when Britt Baker goes for the lockjaw, which is a crossface with a mandible claw. But Rijo reverses it as she gets it fully in, reverses it into a pin, and Rijo retains her championship. Next up, we have the Lucha Brothers versus Jurassic Express. It's Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix versus Marco Stunt and Jungle Boy. Now, Luchasaurus was supposed to be here, but he sustained a leg injury outside of the ring, so he was not cleared to be there. That's why Marco was there. There's no shortage of action right from the start, fast and furious, all kinds of moves. Now, there was a pretty insane one about halfway through the match. Phoenix flying Inseguri into a arm drag to both of them. It was pretty insane. Lucha Bros just mauled the Jurassic Express. They just took this match from top to bottom. There were a few spots where Jurassic Express got their things in, but for the majority of the match, it was all Lucha Bros. Although they got all of their moves in, Lucha Bros, they could not pin Jurassic Express. They just kept kicking out and kicking out and kicking out. Which just shows what kind of heart this team actually has. Lucha Bros end it with a package pile driver with a foot stomp, which is called Zero Fear Factor. And they pin Marco for the win. Now they move on to the tag team tournament next week as well. Next up, we had Moxley and Pac versus Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, which I could not figure out why this is even taking place, because all four of them hate each other. So I don't understand what their decision was on this, but it was a fun match nonetheless. Page was taking out everybody quick and fast through the first good portion of the match. Page finally gets distracted and takes a nasty bump off the turnbuckle onto the apron. After that, Pac takes over. Pac and Moxley take over. Later, almost towards the end of the match, Kenny Snapdragon suplex party. Basically, he snapdragoned everybody. Anybody that stood in his way. And then there was big move after big move after big move for probably a minute or two. It was pretty cool. Moxley and Omega bring the toys out. Pac comes in and takes all the toys away and say, "Not this time." But Moxley goes ahead and hits him with the paradigm shift and leaves. Omega and Page finish him off and pin him for the victory. Which, yet again, I don't know why they did this. It was just super, super weird. I could not, for the life of me, figure this one out. The main event was a Philly street fight for the AEW World Championship. It was Darby Allin versus Chris Jericho. Now, Darby earned this right by winning the Dark match the previous week. I'm sorry, 2 weeks prior, because that was the first one that they did. Darby is fast on his feet. He starts out fast, beating Jericho to the punch. He got a lot of moves in early. Jericho took it like a champ. Darby busts out a submission late in the match. Jericho reverses into the walls of Jericho. Then he tries to pin him and he kicks out. Then Jericho proceeds to tie his hands behind his back. But Darby refuses to give up. Big move after big move. Jericho just keeps punishing him, but he refuses to give up. In the end, Jake Hager interferes in Jericho's match. Jericho puts him in the walls, and he has no choice but to give up. He has to physically say he quits, because he obviously couldn't tap out. His hands were still tied behind his back with tape. The rest of the inner circle comes out to celebrate as they go off the air with a little bit of the bubbly. They actually had bottles of champagne they brought to the ring. That's all there is to this episode of AEW Dynamite. But I will be back with you tomorrow, I believe, with predictions on Impact's Bound for Glory pay-per-view this Sunday. Until then, always be elite.